Okay, je crois qu'on est live à cette heure.
Yes, we're live.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Maryse. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Welcome to our December 21st, 2020 virtual meeting, the last meeting of council for the year 2020. I'll start avec roll call. Je demande à tous les membres du conseil de s'il vous plaît vous annoncer.
Michael Tarnowski, présent.
André Brisson, présent.
Jamie Lauren here.
Cindy Saucier here.
Perfect. And our clerk is here as well, Madame Camille Laflamme.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je suis
Parfait. Cool. Item 2 et 3, prayer and national anthem, we don't do virtually. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. Did members of council had anything they wanted to add for this evening? No. Hearing none.
Mr. Mayor, I have one little one.
Okay, wait.
Number 20A3. This will be a verbal report instead of a written report.
Sorry for 20, number 3, Tedzi?
Yes.
Okay, so
That's in the closed session.
A closed session item. It'll just be a verbal report. We'll just add the word verbal in there. Okay, perfect.
Thank
So item 5 then, adoption of the agenda, motion to approve the agenda as amended. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect, item is carried. Numéro 6, déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire. Here is,
Yeah,
Wait.
just one, I forgot it, where there's, they're talking for the line, just a minute, I'll just have to find, I forgot. Sorry for the delay. C'est le rapport de Jonathan.
le rapport HEJ
C'est lui pour le 300 Saint-Pierre, là.
pour les options de pavage, tu parles?
Non, c'est pour
Le dedicated
accepter pour la 300 puis Saint-Pierre, là. Shit, je ne trouve pas.
Ouais, c'est item I.
OK, désignation, oui, c'est ça. À l'item I, ça affecte de mes terrains, ça fait que c'est pour ça que je vais me retirer.
OK, parfait. Fais certain avec les nouvelles procédures, tu vas être obligé de remplir le formulaire pour la graphière.
OK, je pensais que ça avait lâché, ça.
Non, c'est la nouvelle loi qui a été mise en place. Madame Karimir Laflamme, can you confirm anytime we declare a conflict of interest, it has to be in writing?
Yes, it has to. I can send the form to Councillor Brisson tomorrow.
Okay.
OK, sorry. OK.
Okay. Any others, members of council? Hearing, seeing none. We'll go with item 7, l'adoption des procès-verbaux, procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 7 décembre 2020. Motion d'approuver le procès-verbal tel que présenté. J'ai besoin d'un proposeur puis un appuyeur, s'il vous plaît. Proposé, Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Councillor Brisson. Questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? You're muted, Councillor Tarnowski.
Mike Tarnowski, oui, pardon.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect, item is carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Oui, Madame.
can you confirm who was the mover on that one? I got the seconder as Councillor Brisson.
And the first one was Councillor Tarnowski.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Item 8, presentations, we have none. Item 9, délégation pétition, il n'y en a pas. Item 10, consent items.
Yeah, I'll just ask that the number E be retract from the others.
Okay, so a motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented, except for item E. So I need a mover and a seconder to put everything else except item E on the table. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Councillor Saucier. We'll As for all those, I'll call for a vote for all the other ones. All those in favor?
Mike Ternowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy, yes.
Perfect. All those items are carried. Item E is separate, so a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councilor Lorrain, seconded by Councilor Ternowski. Questions? Conseiller Brisson?
Yeah, it was just whenever I was reading in the special meeting, the minutes of November 17, at 4D, they refer as the St. Pierre Library Board instead of the Russell Library Board, because St. Pierre is for the building, but just maybe having a note that they making aware that it's not the right name.
So these are the minutes of the Police Village Board, so we don't have the authority to change their minutes.
No, I know, but if we can send some info about it.
Yeah, we can definitely send them a note from the clerk's office indicating, just so they're aware that the St. Pierre building is for the building itself and not for the library branch. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. The other thing I just wanted to mention, because in those minutes of November 5th, they are mentioning because Russell is lucky that they have the police village for some fun for their lights. Just to note that the $3,000 is what it costs in Russell, that it was not an overcost with Limoges whenever they had their request last meeting, and that they're using a special company to place the lights too. So I just wanted to that the members are aware that that's what is done in Russell too. So that it was not a complete bad request from Limoges that I find. Okay.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification though, the police village is using their funds and they're not using municipal funds to do it. So I think that's the difference in this case. All right, so we'll call for the vote on that one. All those in favor?
Mike Ternowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. Motion that the items are all carried now. On va aller à item 11, rapport des départements et comités du conseil. Item A, règlement affectation d'une voie publique, rapport PD 90-2020. Puis c'est bloc 112, plan de lotissement 50M 313, une partie de la promenade Lucerne en Brun. Que le conseil reçoit le rapport PD 90-2020, daté du 21 décembre 2020, et adopte le règlement dédiant le bloc 112 sur le plan 50M 313 comme voie publique étant le boulevard Lucerne en Brun, et que le règlement soit déposé sur le titre de la propriété. Questions, comments on this item? Anything? No? Anything to add from the administration? Hearing none, we'll go to item B. Bylaw assuming a public highway, report PD 91-2020, block 52 on plan of subdivision 50M 282, part of Dune Street in Limoges. Council receives report PD 91-2020 dated December 21st, 2020, and adopts the bylaw dedicating block 52 on plan 50M 282 as part of a public highway being Dune Street in Limoges, and that the bylaw be registered on title. Questions, members of council? Hearing none, pretty standard stuff. Anything to add from the administration? Hearing none, we will go to the next item. Item C, transfert annuel et allocation du surplus potentiel, rapport FS 45-2020. Que le conseil reçoit le rapport FS 45-2020 daté du 21 décembre 2020 et approuve le transfert de fonds à 2021 pour des travaux opérationnels et de capital en cours main pas complétés en 2020 et que le conseil approuve les ajustements de fin d'année tels que présentés dans la cédule A. Questions, membres du conseil. Questions, members of council. Conseiller Brisson.
Oui, ça serait juste pour savoir, pour le pavage de Saint-Thomas, je voyais qu'il était plus cher que ce qui avait été projeté, puis que les autres étaient tous plus bas. C'était juste une question. Comment se fait que parce que si l'asphalte était plus cheap, que là, Saint-Thomas était plus cher?
Bon, une question. Je ne sais pas si ça serait une réponse pour notre département de finances ou M. Bourgon.
Probablement.
M. Bourgon, je pense que c'est plus dans your area of expertise in this case.
Merci, M. le maire. Donc, faudrait que je révise les coûts opérationnels là, pour ce segment-là, mais je sais qu'on a dû remplacer quelques ponceaux également. Donc, ça peut être un élément là, qui explique la différence, mais c'est certainement quelque chose que je pourrais vérifier de façon approfondie pour donner plus d'informations au conseil, là, de la variance entre certains segments de chemin.
OK, parfait. Alors, tu peux juste nous envoyer un courriel là-dessus, M. Bourgon.
D'accord, oui, je vais faire ça.
OK. D'autres questions, membres du conseil? Councillor Lorrain, Councillor Tonoski? You're muted, Councillor
Yeah.
Lorrain.
I just had to find my my mouse. So, a question that I have, and I want to make sure of, I guess this is for Monsieur Gardin, is that the amounts for the community grants are excluded. The surplus from the community grants is excluded from this process based on what we did at the budget time. Because I want to make sure that we're not going to be shorting community grants next year. So I just wanted to make sure that was considered when this was done.
Perfect. Thank you, Conseiller Lorrain. Monsieur Godin?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Bonsoir, Chairman du Conseil. So yes, Councillor Lorrain, that's correct. So basically, we do have a lot of year-end transfers that are automatic based on our policies, and we have also noted a few operational transfers to do at year-end, and the community grants are definitely one of them. Every fund that's not spent in 2020 for both the in-kind and the cash donations are going to be transferred to 2021 as it was requested during budget sessions.
Excellent, thank you.
Perfect, thank you very much. Councillor Tonoski?
Yeah, so just a quick question to confirm my understanding of the capital year-end amounts. So at this stage of the year, we're pretty comfortable in our kind of forecast of 275,000 or 276 being above and beyond what we expected. So still having that within the coffers, like for the as a surplus. Is that correct?
That's correct. So, excuse me, through Mr. Mayor. So that's correct, Councillor Tarnowski. So, anything you see there. So the savings, basically in the capital, most of the capital is funded from asset management reserves, or sometimes DCs or others. So the savings are not necessarily directly to the taxation and part of the surplus. They might just be money left into reserves. But yeah, so we're on the capital side, the 276,000 is what we're looking about for an estimate of the savings on that.
Can I follow up, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Tonoski.
So as a follow-up to that, is there a way to better understand, or maybe I don't need to know this right now, but as we get closer to the year end, if we have a better understanding of what goes back in reserves and what's above and beyond that? Is that a reasonable question?
Yeah, through Ms. Mayor, definitely when we do our year end, so when we do know those final numbers, that is going to be presented to Council with a report at the same time as we do bring our financial statements. So we do we show this table with the final cost, so you'll see what stayed in the reserves and what the different differences are. And I do, like in Schedule A, we do mention what we're recommending to do with the actual operational surplus, which is to keep it in reserves for like unknown costs or loss of revenues for future impacts from the pandemic. But that specific number, those specific numbers will be presented to Council, and usually it's in April when we do finish our year end and when our financial statements are audited.
One last follow-up.
Yeah, Councillor Tonoski, then Conseiller Crisson.
So you in the recommendation is for operational surplus, right? So would this be considered operational when it's capital projects? Like those that are outside of the asset management or the asset reserves?
That's right. So it would be operational. Most of the capital projects wouldn't impact that surplus because we're really talking about all the taxation dollars that that were levied. All those dollars that were not spent, what are we doing with them if we do in fact have a surplus?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Conseiller Brisson?
Oui, j'ai des questions pour la section à partir des parcs. C'est juste qu'il y en a une couple, comme il y a le parc Richelieu, puis il y a la New York Station, qui a le coût dans le budget. Puis après ça, il y a le coût qui a été dépensé comme c'est là, mais de qu'est-ce qui figure comme dans la troisième colonne, le coût total des dépenses en 2020, que c'est qu'est-ce qui a été dans le budget, mais que comme avec la station, le 15 000 $, il y a 1400 qui a été dépensé. La différence ne devra pas être à reporter pour 2021, que c'est dans mauvaise colonne. Puis c'est la même chose pour le parc Richelieu, parce qu'autrement, cet argent-là n'est pas transféré, mais n'a pas été utilisé non plus, à ma connaissance.
Monsieur Godin?
Oui, through Mr. Mayor. Donc, conseiller Brisson, la troisième colonne du tableau, ça représente ce qu'on estime qu'il va être la dépense finale. Donc, c'est certain qu'il reste des factures à rentrer, puis les données qui sont ici, c'est pas les données finales. Si on prend l'exemple du New York Central Trail Station, le budget de 15 806, l'estimé de fin d'année, c'est 15 806. Ça indique qu'on s'attend de dépenser, on s'attend de terminer le projet, puis que le montant il correspond à ce qui a été budgété. Donc, on n'anticipe pas d'économie, puis on n'anticipe pas non plus de transférer des sommes à l'année prochaine.
Mais lors du budget, je pensais que la chose du train station, qu'on ne remettait pas d'argent dedans, fait qu'on ne planifiait pas de remettre un 15 000 cette année dedans. C'est pour ça que je suis juste surpris que ça n'a pas juste été remis l'année prochaine, que je n'ai pas entendu parler qu'il allait dépenser 14 000 $ cet automne pour la station.
Donc, c'est possible. Puis, justement, pendant l'exercice de fin d'année, en ce moment, c'est l'image des données aujourd'hui puis les estimés qu'on a faites. C'est possible qu'il y ait d'autres projets qui vont s'ajouter, qu'on va remarquer qui n'ont pas été terminés ou bien qu'on a besoin de transférer les fonds l'année suivante. L'annexe ici, c'est vraiment pour donner un aperçu, là, pour vous montrer où on a identifié les économies, puis aussi vous identifier certains projets qui vont être transférés. Mais ça se peut qu'il y en ait d'autres qui vont s'ajouter puis qui vont vous être rapportés un petit peu plus tard.
Okay. C'était juste ceux-là, surtout qui m'avaient sauté à l'œil autant qu'on est rendu. Ça fait que c'est pour ça que j'ai dit juste faire sûr que l'argent soit transféré, que c'est bon.
Parfait. Merci, conseiller Brisson. Je crois, Madame Guittard, je pense qu'on avait mis le 15 000 dans le budget pour le 2021.
Bonjour, Monsieur le maire, membre du conseil. Oui, on attendait d'ici à la fin de l'année parce qu'on travaillait peut-être une entente pour déménager la station. Donc, c'est l'argent qui nous aiderait peut-être à payer le déménagement. Donc, on se laissait un peu de temps d'ici la fin de l'année. S'il n'y a rien qui se concrétise, on va demander à faire transférer l'argent. Pour ce qui est du parc Richelieu, je pense qu'il restait une facture à rentrer. Donc, on attendait que cette facture-là rentre. Puis ensuite de ça, on pourrait donner le total final avec M. Godin.
Parfait. Merci beaucoup, Mme Guittard. D'autres questions, membres du conseil? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, M. Godin?
Merci, M. le maire. Donc, peut-être juste une petite mention par rapport à notre recommandation pour quoi faire avec le surplus. On mentionne le Safe Restart Programme qu'on a reçu un 403 000 qu'on a gardé en réserve pour 2021. Donc, on propose que le surplus soit ajouté à ça. Mais aussi, je voulais juste mettre le conseil à jour. En fin de semaine dernière, on a aussi reçu de l'information par rapport à la phase 2 du Safe Restart. Donc, la province nous a confirmé nos allocations qu'on va aussi recevoir pour continuer, dans le fond, à pouvoir mitiger nos dépenses de COVID. On a été annoncé qu'on recevrait 429 000 $ additionnels aux 403 000. En gros, il y a deux enveloppes. So there's two envelopes being announced in that funding. The first one being to help municipalities avoid to have a budget deficit. And for that portion of the envelope, we were allocated $348,000 for 2020 and another $81,000 for 2021, which was based on our population and on the counts of cases of COVID in our region. So that's definitely good news. We're still working with the province to have a bit more details just to the reporting side, and is that money secured, or will we have to send it back if after our reporting we see some variances? But it was definitely good news last week to receive that information. So an additional $429,000 that we weren't expecting necessarily.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It's always nice when the province decides to throw some money our way. And I look forward to having more details in the new year as to what it can be used for. And I'm sure the administration will bring back options or suggestions on that front for council discussion. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Godin. Next item, item D, que le Conseil reçoit le rapport FS 46-2020 daté du 21 décembre 2020 et adopte le règlement proposé appointant Patrick Auger à la position permanente du trésorier adjoint. Question, membres du Conseil. Monsieur Godin, would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Monsieur Auger, so Patrick Auger has been, he was appointed Deputy Treasurer on an interim basis in January earlier this year. So he's, the 1 year mark is just around the corner, and we wanted to pass his bylaw to officially nominate Patrick to the position of Deputy Treasurer on a permanent basis. He's been with us for a year now in that position. He was with us before in a financial analyst position, and he's been doing great. And the administration is very satisfied with his work, and would love to continue with him on a permanent basis.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. I know it'll only be passed in the bylaws later on, but I don't anticipate any problems, and I'm sure Monsieur Auger might be watching us to see that he's getting the job officially. So congratulations, Monsieur Auger, and I think council will be proud to pass that bylaw later on. On va aller au prochain item. Next item, E, Financial Audit Services Report FS 47-2020. The council receives report FS 47-2020 dated December 21st, 2020. Grants and approves the proposed service contract extension for financial audit services with BDO Canada for fiscal years 2021 and 2022. Questions, members of council? Questions, membres du conseil? Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the report. I'm just trying to do the math here. So 27 plus 532, so about 34,005. So that's an increase of $6,000 per year. Do we know why it's gone up?
Monsieur Godin?
Through Ms. Mayor. So yes, that's a great question, Councillor Lauren. So we did go through the details when I met with Madame Blanchard from BDO. Went through like the last few years, the time they've put into the contract and versus the cost that we've spent. Essentially, we were expecting an increase. We saw when we did the proposal or the RFP in 2018, they were significantly lower than other bidders. I think they were really trying hard to win that contract. So like I said, and based on our discussions every year, so we know that they were really using up all the hours that they had estimated. At $34,000, they're still under the second lowest bid from the 2018 bids, which is what kind of pushed us also to recommend that we extend. Financial audits are it's a yearly process, so we do it once a year, and it's a few month process. It's a lot of work, and especially those first years, it's a lot of adjusting and working, like learning how we work together. So we found that the 2 first years with BDO went very well. We're just starting our third financial audit with them this year, and on the administration side, it would be a lot more efficient for us if we could keep moving forward and not having to restart with a new supplier. I think the 3-year contract is wise in the sense that it also allows us a certain time to see how we work with the relationship and how efficient it is with the team. And it's been very efficient, and we'd like to proceed with that contract.
Okay. Thank you, Monsieur Godin. Any other questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I understand the reasoning. It's just now we're getting into the same dollar figures as the other bidder for these years, right? Which is why you go to tender, you get a lower price. And now, I mean, before, who were we using before? Wasn't it Deloitte?
Yes, we were with Deloitte before.
So Deloitte brought in a price, and then BDO came under because they wanted the contract. Now BDO is right back up to where Deloitte was. So yeah, we had the savings in the first 3 years, and I understand it's easy to work with them now that you've been working with them for 3 years, but we were also working with Deloitte for many years before that, and we went to tender. So I just get concerned when, and I know it's a small dollar amount, but I get concerned when we all of a sudden we're back up to where we were previously without knowing what the market would be look like. And I mean, Deloitte could still be even higher than that if we went to market, right? I don't know the answer, but in this circumstance, I get concerned about not tendering a contract at this point in time.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much, Conseiller Lorrain.
can we pull this one out, please?
Yep. So we'll pull item E out. Any other questions, comments, members of council? If there's none, then we'll move on to the next item. Item F, modification au règlement sur les enseignes, rapport PIC 16-2020. That council receives report PIC 16-2020 dated December 21st, 2020, and as recommended in this report, approves the proposed amendment to sign by law 2016-052 by amending section 8 rules for all signs. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Saucier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was just wanting a clarification on this. So what kind of signs are they referring to exactly? Like I couldn't really figure it out in the report. So I just want to know what we're talking about specifically here.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Saucier. Madame Bordeaux, s'il vous plaît.
Bonsoir. Yes, it was brought to our attention. We noticed that when a property is zoned commercial but used as a residential for residential purposes, we didn't want those properties to have very large signs because they are used as a residence. So for those property, we just want to look at the bylaw as a residential property and not a commercial property.
Okay, merci. That clears it up.
Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Conseiller Brisson.
Est-ce que ça inclut des commerces comme sur la Grande Rue qui a des appartements au deuxième étage, mais que en bas c'est commercial parce qu'il y a des appartements que c'est résidentiel au deuxième?
Merci.
Non, excusez.
Ah,
Ça ne s'appliquerait pas dans des situations comme ça. Quand il y a du commercial, ils peuvent utiliser des enseignes commerciales. C'est quand il n'y a pas de commercial ou c'est une propriété qui est utilisée résidentielle. À ce moment-là, il faudrait qu'ils suivent les lignes d'une propriété résidentielle et non commerciale.
OK, tu veux. Excuse. Fait que pour un suivi, c'était juste que tu veux dire le lot est commercial, mais c'est une maison qu'il y a dessus.
C'est ça.
OK. Je ne savais pas qu'il y en avait qui étaient de même. Je pensais que c'était s'il y avait une maison, c'était automatiquement résidentiel. Là, mais...
Si je peux juste donner un exemple, Monsieur le maire.
Oui.
Il y a aussi des propriétés qui sont dans des zones agricoles qu'on ne veut pas nécessairement qu'ils suivent les directives agricoles parce que c'est pas vraiment utilisé comme agricole, c'est utilisé comme résidentiel.
OK. D'autres questions, membres du conseil, là-dessus? No, s'il n'y a pas d'autres questions, we'll move on to the next item. Next item is item G, Russell Transpo Future Report EcoDev 09-2020. I'll call it right off the bat. We're going to separate this item and it will be discussed further along as well, but I'll bring out the recommendation. The council receives the report EcoDev 09-2020 dated December 7, 2020, and that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign the proposed bylaw to amend the existing contract with 417 Bus Line in order to provide for 1, AA suspension for a period of 1 year starting January 1st, 2021, equivalent to an amount of $90,000. 2, plan a reduced return of service in January 2022, equivalent to an amount of $434,520 until the end of the contract with 417 Bus Line, June 2023. 3, the option of adding a bus depending on the situation. 4, an amendment to the user fee bylaw to include an increase in the cost of the bus pass from $253 to $265, an increase in the 10-ticket booklet from $102 to $105, an increase in the student pass from $182 to $187, effective in January 2022. We've seen this report. It comes back with slight adjustments compared to the last meeting, and that was pulled out. So I'll put on the floor questions. Councillor Saucier.
Thank you. Yeah, I just was curious, of course, with everything changing this week and going into the gray zone, you know, maybe a lot of people won't be returning to work in January. My concern was when I was reading that we actually lose the gas tax program. Is that also the case if we suspend for just a year?
So
that's my first question.
Yeah, just for clarification, council already made the decision during budget time. We only budgeted for a suspension of 2021. Right. So that's already been decided by council based on the report. Madame Tremblay, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, whether we cancel it or suspend the service for 2021, we're losing the gas tax associated with that year. Madame Tremblay.
Good evening, members of council. I was just asking if it's possible just to go over some of the few points of the report and just present and maybe answer some question as we go. If that's okay, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
I'm not going to go over the entire report, but I just summarize some of the important information, and I think it's going to probably answer some of the question that will go afterwards.
Okay, go ahead, Madame Tremblay.
So just like I just mentioned, we'll not gonna go over the entire report in detail, since I believe that the prepared report that was submitted is pretty complete concerning the future of Russell Transpo. But I would just like to bring some important information. So as you may have noticed, we have included different scenarios for consideration of members of council. However, it's important to mention that there's many other options that could have been considered, but we have decided to only focus on the options that were the most possible. Based on the multiple factors to consider regarding the impact of the decision, the administration is the opinion that scenario 1 would be the best financial and social choice for the future of the service. As you know, since the start of the pandemic, our Russell Transpo service and many other carriers in Canada have suffered from COVID-19. While we are aware that our service is not profitable at this time, we would like to remind you the success that this service had just before the onset of the pandemic. In 2019, the increase of Russell Transpo users allowed us to increase our revenue by more than 52,000. The year 2020 has been an incredible start in terms of the number of users compared to previous year. Had the trend continued and not been affected by COVID-19, our municipal contribution would have been around 12,500 compared to 90,000 as budgeted. With the municipality of Russell growing steadily, the residents and the administration consider that it's essential to provide a service like Russell Transpo to our community. 65% of the writer took the time to express the importance of the service in the survey that was conducted last week. The results are proof. Russell Transpo is an essential service, and that was a deciding factor for most of the respondents when moving to the Township of Russell. Therefore, it seems it's important and responsible to us not only to compare the financial aspect of the decision, but also the outcome of the service. The riders are the Township residents, and 63% confirm their intention to return if possible, if the service is provided in 2022. The administration considered that it's premature to end the public transportation service since there are several factors that are still unknown. For example, one of the important factors that Madame Saucier just mentioned is the financial government assistance. Last week, we have received, as part of phase 2 of the SRA program, a funding commitment that the township will be eligible to receive an amount up to $108,000. That funding could be applied to revenue lost to support municipal transit. The only reason why Township of Russell was entitled to receive this funding above the tax revenue is that we have a transit service. It would be truly heartbreaking if after all these years and all the effort of building a viable, reliable, and nearly self-sufficient service, that the pandemic, and a factor that it's out of our control, came to end an essential service for a growing community. I would ask Mr. Godin at this point just to discuss the financial aspect of the recommendation, and after Mr. Godin's presentation, maybe we'll be available to ask further questions from members of council.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. It wasn't word for word the report, but it was pretty close to what council has had since last week. So you've gone, I've gone through the report multiple times since I've had it. I've looked at all the options. I've done my own investigations. I'm quite comfortable with what's the recommendations. If members of council want to go through have Mr. Godin go through it again, I'm looking for direction from council here. Do you guys need more information? If there's something that's not in the report, then I would like to hear it. But I think that everything was a very in-depth report. I congratulate you for that. Councillor Saucier?
Thank you. I read it thoroughly too, and most of the questions were answered very well. The one thing that I was just it's just a detail for when we resume was the student pass, and I was just sort of feeling like everything the students have been through. I was just wondering if we had to raise the student pass, and also do we have a senior rate?
Okay, I don't believe we have a senior rate, Madame Tremblay.
No, we don't have a senior rate. The only reason, and it seems like we're taking advantage of the situation with COVID to increase our pass, but at the same time with the feasibility study that was conducted, the ratio between the passes and les carnets were not consistent with the other prices that they were seeing in other municipalities, and that's why they've suggested that we should increase our passes by a percentage every year, ranging in between 2 to 5% every year to keep up with the market. So that's why, based on the situation and based on the fact as well that we have the cleaning and we have everything else to be responsible for, that's why we're suggesting those amounts to be consistent with the study that was provided, and as well to be take into consideration the other expenses that we're seeing based on the COVID.
Okay,
thank you,
can I just, Mr. Mayor, again, just for the first question of Madame Saucier, the gas tax for this year, the government just mentioned that the riders, it's a formula, and they will use the numbers of 2019 so that we are not affected with the gas tax funding.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, merci.
Councillor Tarnowski, you had a question? T'es muté, conseiller Tarnowski.
Sorry, you get carried away listening and you forget about that. So I just wanted to know if we had any further details on the expected demand after the pandemic. I know we have a survey there that says that people will want to, but is there a commitment on that survey from them? Are they willing to put some deposits down? I'm a little concerned because I know even in my area, and certainly in the federal government, there's a lot of talk of people not going back to regular office space as they used to, and it's a pretty major concern with a lot of federal government employees right now. And so I have a concern that people that are currently telecommuting don't even realize that they may not be coming back. So I've got some concerns of the unknown demand factor, and I don't feel that we've gauged that enough. And the other question that I had, just for clarification purposes, is what are the other townships doing? Like what's happening in Castleman? They have this service there. Is that a private service, or is that funded by taxpayers, or partially funded by taxpayers?
Thank you very much, Councillor Tarnowski. If my memory serves me correctly, there used to be a consortium from Nation Township, Castleman, that they would go through that whole region, and that fell apart. And it used to be private, similar to us, and then the government got involved, gave funding. They went and got a municipal contract, and they ended up canceling their service because it was becoming too expensive. Madame Tremblay, I'm not sure if you have more information, but I believe it is still privately run.
Since the pandemic, they stopped doing those runs. They were private, and the people that are still working are using our service at the moment. So the people from Castleman and Limoges are using the Russell Transpo service.
Currently using the service?
Yeah.
So how many users do we have now? Because the last time you came before us, we had maybe 3, 4, 5 users.
So based on the stats that we have currently, it's ranging in between 7 to 9 users.
7 to 9 users. And so just out of curiosity, because they're users from outside the township, similarly to our sports and recreation, are they paying a higher amount? Or are they being subsidized by the municipality of Russell through our funds?
So they're paying the same amount, so it's the same pass. And we don't have a user fee for people that are outside the village. One of the reasons it's kind of complicated for us to know exactly where people are coming from, and it would add to the people that are selling our passes, like information to gather. And basically, from what I know from the beginning, I think we were talking about 1, maybe 2 person that were not coming from the Russell village.
Okay, so it's not in it. Now that the transit service is privately shut down, we haven't had an influx of 20, 30 people. We're talking maybe 1 or 2 people.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Was there anything else to add to that question, Councillor Tarnowski?
No, thank you. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah. Conseiller Brisson?
Mais là, on parle de quand même en janvier, d'une manière ou d'une autre, d'arrêter le service, si que j'ai bien compris le rapport, parce qu'ils n'en ont pas assez de personnes, c'est ça?
Ben, c'est ça, qu'est-ce qu'on a décidé au budget. On a juste budgété 90 000 pour le service et c'est pas adéquat pour continuer le service. Alors, en 2021, il n'y a pas de service de transport pour la municipalité. Other questions, Councillor Saucier?
Yeah, so if we suspend for the year and then like at the end of next year, could we not, just to add on to Councillor Tarnowski's point, could we not then just get people to register and see how many we get, and if it's viable, that the people would then, have to reserve their seat, in other words, for 2022?
I think, well, Madame Tremblay mentioned that there's other possible options that haven't been presented. I'm assuming that would be one. However, based on the email I got from Madame Tremblay, I asked a similar question. I said, if the $90,000 that we're putting on the table to pause for 2021, if we decide not to continue in 2022, 23, is 417 Bus Lines willing to pause it for $90,000? And the answer Madame Tremblay shared with me today was, no, the owner made clear that the $90,000 is only if the service starts back up in 2022. That's correct, Madame Tremblay?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, other questions, Councillor Lorrain?
Yeah, I'm just getting myself off mute. So it's 90,000 if we agree to restart the program next year in January of 2022, and then it's either with 2 buses or 4 buses based on what you've presented in this report, so numbers 1 and 2.
That's correct, I believe.
Okay, and then what's the 3 and 4 numbers? That's our 6-month commitment that we owe.
Yeah, I believe three is if we just cancel the service, and 4 is if we cancel the service, giving notice on the 4th run that we have the ability to cancel, so we save a little bit there. So they're almost identical, but we're just saving a little bit with the 4th option. If you're willing to go to 3, you have to go to 4.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand notice given on December 22nd, 2020.
That's correct. If we do it now, basically.
Okay, because I was reading that December 2022, and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. So I'm just, and we have offset of that 108,000 for sure, if we were to use options 3 or 4.
Yeah, I believe that's with I think it's a financial question, Monsieur Godin. Based on the information received from the Safe Start program and the fact that we're getting the gas tax finishes in March, those 2 amounts, 142 plus 109 roughly, so could be used as part of the cancellation of the contract. Is that correct, Monsieur Godin?
Yeah, yes, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm just trying to, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just to elaborate on that. So in all 4 scenarios, the 2020-2021 gas tax is the same. So we are estimating receiving 42,500 in 2021 for the gas tax, which represents January to March. And we're also considering that $108,000 of revenues from the Safe Restart. The only thing, and that's not necessarily represented in the financial table to consider, is like scenarios 1 and 2. If we do restart the service in 2022, then we can probably assume, but we don't know yet. There's been no confirmation and no indication from the province, but that the gas tax revenues will restart at that point in time. So when you are looking at those total contributions, if you're comparing 1 and 4, you're seeing 126,000 and 131,000. But what's kind of maybe missing from there is that if we do go with scenario 1, which we're offering the service, the gas tax component will probably restart in 2022 and 2023. But we really have no information on how much and what the formula would be at that point in time, which is why it was excluded.
Right. And that's on the assumption that many users would be using the system, right? The amount of users could be lower, it could be higher, but that's an assumption at this point in time because we have no commitment from the riders, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
currently, excuse me, go ahead, Demi.
I just want to mention what Mr. Godin just mentioned. So I had a meeting with the ministry on Friday, and basically they said if we suspend, we're not entitled to have the gas tax. If we restart the program, then let's say if we restart the service in 2022, then we'll have that portion for the year of coming. So it's not complicated to be removed, and it's not complicated to be back on the program as soon as we offer a service. So it's important to understand that suspension means the same thing as cancellation. So while we're suspending, we're not entitled to receive the gas tax funding.
Even the 42.5 that's presented in the chart?
No, that will receive for sure, because that's what I've mentioned originally, is that because the program is usually based on a formula of rider and population, and because all municipalities that offer transit service has been impacted with the number of riders, they use the number of 2019, so that we're not impacted at that funding. So the 42,000 is accurate.
Okay. Just for clarification, so if we go with option 1, 2021, the service is suspended. We start in 2022, but we won't get any gas tax revenue for 2022 because it's based on the previous year, right? So gas tax would actually, we'd have to do 2022 without provincial funding. And then in 2023, we'll have some funding coming based on the 2022 numbers. No, I'm reading that wrong. Mr. Godin?
No, I think the year, like we would run out of, or we wouldn't be receiving any gas tax for a complete year. So from April 2021 to March 2022. And these are assumptions, but we're assuming that we're going to restart receiving gas tax in 2022 if we're offering the service. So the revenue is going to follow the service. Even if they're going to calculate it in early 2023, we're going to be applying it to 2022.
Okay, based on the ridership we have. So obviously, if we have less riders, the gas tax revenue is going to be considerably lower. But we don't know that because that's my issue with number one. It's all based on assumptions, and there's nothing concrete. Whereas item 4, we know it's concrete and we know where we stand. Okay. Other questions, members of council? Something to add, Madame Tremblay?
Yeah, so just based on your last comment, Mr. Mayor, for the option 1, it's pretty concrete with the number as 2021 and 2020. Like the options for the municipal contribution in 2021, I don't think that could be changed. And the 2022, the only positive that we could receive is more than what's anticipated for the gas tax.
Right, but option 1 is based on the amount of users you're putting as being there, which there's no guarantee, right? That's an assumption that we'll have that many users that are paying that much in user fees.
In 2021, we didn't add any revenues.
No, looking at option 1. Option 1, we see user revenues of $267,000 from user fees. And option 1, option 2, we're using that figure. But that's based on a certain amount of population actually using the service. If we don't have that amount of population using that service, then we're not going to get that much in revenue. Right? I think I'm yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting it properly. Because while I understand we had a survey that went out to our riders to see if they were interested in having the service, in that survey, it did not mention what is recommended in this report, which is that we're dropping down to 1 bus and we're completely changing the service we offer. So, you know, that survey, people answered based on their experience with our existing service, but we did not mention that service will be changing to 1 bus and it's going to pretty much take it or leave it. That's the only option you're going to have. So that's why I think the survey is, there's no commitment there either. So Conseiller Lorraine, then Conseiller Brisson, then Councillor Saucier.
Yeah, you just said 1 bus, but number 1 says with 2 buses.
Well, sorry, 1 bus from Embrun, 1 bus from Russell, if that's correct, Madame Tremblay?
We didn't decide that yet.
But that's what's in the report?
Yeah, but it could change, right? So it depends where people are coming from. So it could be all adjusted, but the ideal situation would be 1 from Embrun and 1 from Russell. You're correct.
So what's the current situation? We have 4 buses now?
No, right now we're running at 1 bus.
No, but I mean, pre-COVID, our normal bus route system was 4 buses?
4, yeah.
So we're looking at minimum cutting it in half.
Yeah.
Okay.
And follow up?
Yeah, Conseiller Lorraine.
So if we commit to what we said at the budget and we just suspend for the year, we pay $90,000, we're committed to serve out the rest of the contract based on what was presented. Like that's the commitment we have to sign on for. I just want to make sure that I understand that we will then be coming back for all of 2022 and half of 2023 for sure. And there's no way to get out of it because we're committing to the 1-year suspension. Is that understood, or is there still the ability at some point if we decided to give 6-month notice, do we lose that ability
Well, based on the email from Madame Tremblay, he wasn't willing to do the 90,000 if we weren't committing to 2022. So is the 417 asking us to remove that 6-month clause that were held that we know? So we would still have that option of giving 6 months in January 2022, for example, and just pay the 6 months like we're proposing this option.
Mr. Mayor, so I believe that the answer to that question is that 90,000, the only reason why we're deducting that 90,000 out of the 22 year is that because we're not canceling in 2022. If we were to cancel in 2022, then that 90,000 would not be credited for that year.
I don't think that's the question, Madame Tremblay. We know that we're spending 90,000 in 2021. That's for sure. I'm saying in January 2022, do we still have the option to give 6 months notice? So we would pay 6 months plus the 90 in 2021. That option is still available, correct?
Yes, but the 90,000 that we're paying in 2021 is deducted from the 2022 year.
If we go with this option, but if we decide to cancel, all we're paying is the 6-month penalty. We're not deducting the $90,000.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So right now in the first option, it's because the 90,000 we're spending in 2021 is being deducted in 2022 because we're agreeing. So it's a positive
contract.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I understand the numbers, and I apologize. So if we said right now, yes, we're doing it, we're going to agree to the suspension. It's $90,000 to cover all of 2021. And then if we decided that we wanted to cancel the service and give 6 months notice, we would have to pay the full $177,000 to cancel that service because he's not taking into account the 90,000 because we canceled the service. The only reason he's doing it is because we're keeping the service for that 6-month period and going on to give him his additional year and a half, right? So it would have cost me 177 plus 90 if I wanted to cancel as of June of 2022.
Monsieur Godin?
And that's correct, Councilor Lauren.
So there's an advantage to us canceling now, and if we decide to commit with the system, then you obviously you don't want to cancel later on because it ends up being more expensive. It's the $90,000 extra that we're looking at basically doing. Monsieur Leduc.
Monsieur Conseil, bonsoir. To me, I've heard the questions and arguments, and if it's supposed to be a financial decision, then if you look at the scenario number 1 under the figures we provided to you, with us paying whatever we paid to the provider, at the end of 2021, we're still going to be $58,000 positive. So no financial contribution from the township in 2021. In 2022, it's the same thing, or either we're at 40 instead of 90, or potentially at 48, depending if we have a higher gas tax revenue. So council has to look, to me, to the whole picture and not strictly only asking the question about the 90,000 and the contract, because there's other revenues and other expenditures. So to me, it depends where you want to go, but we thought we would be able to share the scenarios completely to show exactly what the numbers were for the whole year. I understood council read them, but to me, I have not heard you say that there is going to be a positive outcome for the 21 year, nor there might be one for the 22 year. So I just wanted to throw that in for the discussion.
Thank you, Monsieur Leduc. I think there is a lot of ifs, maybes. Some things are facts, some things aren't. It doesn't make for an easy decision. Where I'm personally having a problem with is the fact that Madame Tremblay mentioned it earlier in regards to the increase in fees. While the increase in fees were closer to the market rate, yet in the market rate in Castleman, in Limoges, in Saint Isidore, there's no municipal contribution. But there's approximately $200,000 yearly of public funds that are being given to the private sector in our case. And when I look at that, I have to wonder, is the funds that are being funneled through Russell Township to the provider, is it either we're paying way too much or the public funds coming through us are being used to lower the cost for everybody else? That's where I seem to be here. Conseiller Brisson?
Quand que je regarde aussi la contribution municipale à long terme, qu'il parle la dernière colonne de 20, 21, 23, si on fait juste le canceller puis qu'on recommence à l'autre, c'est l'option qui revient le moins cher à long terme parce que là, il y a d'autres argents qui rentrent des boss. L'autre chose aussi qui n'a pas été pris en considération, il faut figurer aussi que si les autobus fonctionnent, ils sont wrappés avec de la publicité, que ça nous fait une publicité aussi, que je sais que souvent on n'a pas reconnu ce montant-là dans nos calculs pour le transport, mais que ça l'est, qu'il y en a du monde qui l'ont vu.
Okay. Je crois que les revenus font partie du financial chart. Madame Tremblay, Monsieur Godin, the other expenses, that's the bus wrap revenues, c'est ça? Non?
Donc, les revenus, il y a cette année, on n'a pas eu de bus wrap parce qu'il y a eu tellement d'incertitudes que si on était pour rouler ou pas rouler, il n'y a pas personne qui ont signé des contrats pour faire de la publicité. Mais on a nos abribus, donc on a un contrat avec des fournisseurs pour la publicité sur nos abribus. Ces fournisseurs-là ont été avertis qu'on était pour suspendre, puis ont décidé quand même d'aller de l'avant avec la publicité sur les abribus pour 2021. Donc, c'est ça les revenus dans le tableau que vous voyez devant vous.
Sponsorship program, c'est ça? So, potentiellement, il y aurait des revenus pour le wrap du bus, si on allait. Okay.
Exactement.
Okay. Potentiellement. Monsieur Brisson.
Oui, moi, ce que je disais aussi, c'était pas un revenu financier qui nous amène directement, que quand que tu vois le logo de la municipalité qui se promène dans la ville, qui offre ce service-là, il y en a plus qu'un citoyen qui m'ont dit, quand j'ai pris la décision de m'en venir en brun, c'est que j'ai vu un autobus avec le logo de la municipalité qui se promenait. Fait que c'est une publicité qu'on se fait nous autres mêmes en disant que nos boss se promènent. Ça fait que quand on fait de l'argent un peu avec quand même, ça vaut de quoi dedans? Puis c'est que s'il n'y avait pas de coût pour le canceller, je dirais on cancelle tout de suite puis on repogne quand ça recommence. Mais c'est quand même un service que je trouve quand même essentiel. Puis au bout de la ligne, même si on l'annule, ça va nous coûter de quoi? Ça fait que c'est là mon position.
Merci. Just to clarify, as I mentioned earlier, Rockland, Saint-Isidore, Castleman, Nation Township, Limoges, all these were in the same, we're probably having the same conversation we're having now years ago. And I spoke to a few of the mayors today and I asked them, when you canceled your municipal service, how did it affect transit ridership? They said from one day to the next, there was absolutely no change in the service. The private sector continued operating because they want the revenues, because that's their business. So will it change? Possibly. Is it an essential service? I tend to agree. Does it have to be a publicly funded service when the private sector has been doing it for years and years and years? That is what's up for debate in this case. Councillor Saucier.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you know, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we had a very successful, viable service. I remember when we were almost going to get the 5th bus because so many people were standing. So, and just from reading everyone's comments on the survey and what have you, you know, some people said they moved here because of the service. Some people just aren't comfortable driving to the city. So I think, you know, it is an essential service and that we're providing, and we were providing a good service. So, you know, I'm just saying, you're going to 2 buses maybe in 2022. Maybe we'll be back to 4 buses. Who knows? Like, we just don't know what the future holds at this point. But, you know, I just want us not to lose sight of what was happening. It's also better for the environment. You've got less cars on the road. You've got less accidents. You've got people that are safer. And there's many, many pluses to providing a service of this kind. So,
Okay.
Madame Tremblay, you have something you want to add?
Thank you, Madame Saucier. I tend to agree it is a good service. I have no doubt. I don't think anybody here is saying we don't want the service. In my case, what I'm saying is, does it have to be publicly funded when it's privately funded everywhere else and there's 0 taxpayer dollars going into the company? So that's my comment. Madame Tremblay?
I just wanted to maybe add to your comment, Mr. Mayor, comparing our service to other municipality. As you know, this is a criteria that was evaluated in Money Sense, and the other municipality were not named 3rd best place to live in Canada. And this is a service that the municipality is accounted for. I understand that it's a service that we invest municipal funds in, but it's as other service that the municipality also offers. And like Madame Saucier just mentioned, we do have conversation with a lot of riders that it is a deciding factor for them to decide if they're going to live in Rockland, Limoges, and they decide the Township of Russell because we offer that service. And I understand that it could be on the private sector, but like I've mentioned, it's accounted for Money Sense. It's a 10% of the decision that it's being made, and the other municipality are not named as one of the best places to live in Canada.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I've had enough discussion on this type. It's separated to vote on later. So if there's any other questions, or we can have further discussion at a later date, or if you want to continue now. Okay, if there's no further discussion at this point in time, we'll move on to the next item. Item H. Lumière de Noël, le rapport ISPW 26-2020. Que le Conseil reçoit le rapport ISPW 26-2020 daté du 21 décembre 2020 et approuve les futures locations de lumière de Noël suivantes. 3 à Marionville et 30 à Russell dans la municipalité de Russell, et approuve également l'achat de 5 lumières additionnelles par année parmi les exemplaires présentés dans ce rapport. I think we've asked for this for a little while, so thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon, for bringing it forward. Questions, comments from members of council on this report? Madame Saucier, Monsieur Brisson?
Yeah, I just didn't see, what was the cost per, like there was in the models, there was a couple options and I didn't see a difference in the cost.
I think, Monsieur Bourgon, your report, on average, it's about 1,000, but obviously some of them, that's for the lights we have similarly now. I think the other ones are a little bit less expensive, Monsieur Bourgon. Vous êtes muté, Monsieur Bourgon.
Désolé. They're all about $500 to $600 each. Plus, we need to take account about $300 to $350 for the Hydro One fee to provide a proper outlet for those lights. So that's why it's about $1,000 each.
Okay. Merci.
Merci. Conseiller Brisson?
Oui, je voyais sa map, je viens pas à bout de ressortir comme c'est là, mais il y avait des, je pense que c'est surtout à Russell, qu'il y avait des points verts, mais il y avait des points bleus aussi. Puis il y avait 3 couleurs en tout cas. C'était juste savoir c'était quoi là, la différence, pourquoi il y avait 3 couleurs, puis les autres. Je sais que les autres, c'est ceux qui existaient, puis ceux qui étaient proposés, mais je viens pas à bout de le rouvrir. Là.
Merci, conseiller Brisson. Monsieur Bourgon, I think we had that conversation as well.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Donc, c'est une erreur de notre part. Les points bleus, c'est une layer, une couche qu'on aurait dû enlever. C'est des poteaux d'électricité, mais qu'on ne peut pas utiliser pour installer les lumières. Donc, c'est vraiment les points verts qui indiquent des poteaux qui peuvent être utilisés. Puis également, je voudrais mentionner au conseil, on n'a pas indiqué les lanternes que nous avons sur concession qui peuvent être utilisées là, pour installer les genres de guirlandes que je propose dans le rapport également.
OK, parfait. D'autres questions? I'll just throw it out there. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bourgon. I know our goal is to, we're going to buy, roughly 5 lights per year until we get to the 30 plus 3. But when looking at the map, something I noticed is that we have some, like, I look at Marionville, we're talking about the 2 main roads. I look at Russell, we're talking about the 3 main roads. And then when I look at the map for Embrun, we have the main road, but we have a couple of side streets that have lights. And I see there's a couple on Saint-Jacques. There's a couple, I think, on Forgette. Puis Noce à Rue Blais aussi. These aren't main roads. I'm just wondering, and I guess I'm throwing it out to members of council, next year when the lights get redone, should we be concentrating on just the main roads? I think it makes sense. I mean, even if I look at Rue Blais, when we have the parade for the Christmas parade, well, it doesn't go down that direction. It loops around and comes back, and the parade is done by the time you get to those lights. So I'm just looking for council if you agree that we should be just concentrating on the main roads. That way we would be able to reallocate our lights more effectively. Thoughts on that? Councillor Saucier?
I agree, yeah. To concentrate on the main roads.
The main roads, okay. So are everybody else okay given that direction as well? Yeah, I see thumbs up. Great, perfect. Any other questions on the report? D'autres questions sur le rapport? Parfait, Monsieur Bourgon, tu as ta directive, puis on va voter bientôt. Next item I, Dedicated Public Highway Report, ISPW 27-2020, dedicating 2 road widening along Route 300 and Saint-Pierre as a public highway. The council receives report ISPW 27-2020, dated December 21st, 2020, and adopts the bylaw dedicating part of Part 12 of Plan 50R 10765, part of Part 12, Part 11, and Part 6 of Plan 50R 10765, Part 1, 2, 3 of Plan 50R 11069, and part of public highway being Saint-Pierre Road and Route 300, and that the bylaw be registered on title. Questions, comments, members of council? Just to point out, this is the item that Conseiller Brisson declared a conflict of interest on.
That's why I was saying that I just back up my chair like at the council.
All right, thank you very much. Question membres du conseil là-dessus? Anything to add, Monsieur Bourgon? It was pretty self-explanatory. Okay, parfait. If there's no other discussion, we will go on. Obviously, we'll have to separate this item as well, Madame Caméré-Laflamme, so that Monsieur Brisson doesn't vote on it accidentally. We'll move on to the next item. J, Winter Operation and Mailboxes Report ISPW 28-2020. The council receives report ISPW 28-2020, dated December 21st, 2020, and approves to maintain the same level of service when replacing mailboxes damaged during snow operations. Questions, comments, members of council? I've had, Conseiller Lorrain, go ahead.
So just a question. So we say, I read the report and I understand, yeah, we're going to replace in certain circumstances. Now, when we replace, do we replace what was there, or do we replace to a certain standard in case the person has spent, you know, a ton of money on a specific type of mailbox? Do we replace like for like, or is it simply a dollar amount for them to go and buy another one?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Through you, Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Bourgon.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So we do our best to try to replace similar to what was there, but obviously we go as well, but what we can buy at either Ronan or Home Hardware. So we try to still maintain an appropriate budget as well. So obviously sometimes homeowners may not be 100% satisfied to what we're replacing the mailbox with, but we go with what we can accommodate them with the ability that we have in Embrun and Russell.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just make a suggestion. I made the suggestion. We had a conversation, myself and Monsieur Bourgon. If council would consider putting some, I guess, not excessive amount of funds, but maybe starting a program for, like, you know, how we have our diaper program, cloth diaper program, where people can apply and, you know, they get so many. I would suggest that we keep the same policy, but when somebody's mailbox is damaged, in the report, we had that wooden protector that we recommend to people. What if, you know, during the summertime or the slow time at Public Works, we had our students, you know, build 10, 20 of these things a year. And when somebody has damage created by snow, we can say, look, you know, it was created by snow. We can't replace that as per our policy. But here we'll give you this structure that helps protect your mailbox in the future. And, you know, you put one per address, we keep track or something. But I don't think, Monsieur Bourgon, the cost wouldn't necessarily be exorbitant on that kind of endeavor.
No, it all depends on what type of amount. But certainly if we allow like a $500, it would be, I think, sufficient to run a pilot program at least.
So I know that we don't have that in the budget for Monsieur Bourgon. I'm not sure if, you know, I'm sure we can find $500 somewhere. Looking for feedback from members of council. Is that something we want to entertain, or, you know, it's obviously it's increasing the level of service that we're offering to our residents, but it's increasing the level of service at a minimal cost, if you will. Looking for thoughts from members of council on that type of pilot program. Conseiller Lorrain, Councillor Tarnowski, Conseiller Brisson.
Yeah, I'm good with it. If we want to allocate, you know, start a fund up, and if we can have it, you know, every year added up and added into the budget and under operational costs, then I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, we could always look at if we give that direction, the year-end surplus, if there's a surplus, could be taken out of there as well, so it wouldn't affect budget time. Conseiller Tarnowski.
So I would just want to maybe make sure that we put in a cap on it, so that it doesn't get, like, I mean, if my neighbor gets one, I might all of a sudden really want one, and, you know, like, so at some point, as long as we cap it and we ensure that it's only going when there are, you know, issues and actual boxes that go down.
Yeah, I think that as a pilot program, I wouldn't recommend like the cloth diaper program where we're announcing it. It's truly a tool for the department to you know, go when they go meet the individual and explain it wasn't the, you know, the blade of the snowplow, it was just snow being flung on it. You know, we can't replace your mailbox as per policy, but here, you know, we will provide you with the guard, so, you know, it should avoid that situation in the future. So that way, if you see your neighbor has it, well, you know, it's because his got damaged, not yours necessarily. But, you know, if it's something that people start seeing, they might wake up and realize, hey, you know, I should be protecting my mailbox on certain roads anyways. Conseiller Brisson?
Oui, moi, c'est juste pour mentionner que je suis un peu comme peur un peu d'un projet comme ça, parce que ça prend, avec le bois, comme qu'est-ce qui avait été montré, c'est que ça peut monter quand même assez vite, en fait, de prix, plus que tout de bien le nombre de boîtes qui se fait casser dans le nain. Puis, c'est tout de bien juste plus sensibiliser le monde que nettoyer leur banque autour de la boîte à mal va déjà leur aider beaucoup. C'est plus une chose de sensibilisation à la place de dire, ben, attendez pas que la banque soit rendue dessus votre boîte à mal pour le faire. Fait que, non, je suis comme réticent un petit peu, j'ai peur un peu pour les coûts de ça, que ça peut monter. Puis comme que conseiller Tarnowski a dit, ben, si mon voisin l'a eu, pourquoi moi je ne l'ai pas eu? Ça va-tu faire boule de neige que tout le monde va en vouloir, surtout s'il l'est fait payer par la municipalité? Fait que je serais prudent avec un tel projet. Merci.
Comme j'ai mentionné, ça serait sur comme le Diaper Cloth Program, il est limité à 10. T'sais, on peut dire un certain montant, c'est limité. Whatever we get billed for that amount. And then when there's no more, there's no more. And, you know, we can recommend to people to apply next year or whatever the case is. Conseiller Lorrain?
So I know I'm probably putting Monsieur Bourgon on the spot, but do we know how many last year made complaints that theirs were broken? And how many of them were by snow and how many of them were by the blade? Percentages work as well, like just to give us an idea to maybe lessen Councillor Brisson's concerns.
Yeah, I believe Monsieur Bourgon, you had those numbers in the report.
Yeah, so it's about 20 an average per year, and we do replace about 5 that gets damaged by the plow.
So you're talking maybe 15 stands if that was the case. But like I like Councillor Tarnowski's idea, just put an amount, cap it at a certain amount. Like I said, I don't know what these things cost. You know, for $1,000, can you do 10 of them? Can you do 20 of them? Can you do 15? I mean, it's, you know, I'm fine if we keep this policy as is, and then we can always give direction to the administration to just have a quick look and bring back a report to say, hey, you know, the pilot program will cost this much. If you guys agree to wait and see, is everybody okay with that, giving that direction to the administration? Just bring us back a potential, you know, verbal report, have a quick look and see what the potential costs could be. Monsieur Leduc, tu veux ajouter quelque chose?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, j'aurais peut-être préféré que vous dites tout de suite le montant. Je pense que ce soit 500 $ ou 1000 $, on peut prendre du surplus anticipé, c'est pas un problème. Puis on figurera comment on va en faire en extra. Je vais éviter de revenir une deuxième fois, on aimerait ça le régler tout de suite. Puis si c'est 500, c'est 500. Si c'est 1000, c'est 1000. C'est pas plus compliqué que ça.
OK, parfait. Councillor Lorrain? Sorry, Councillor Saucier.
Do we then have to take this out and add that as an amendment? And that council agrees to a pilot project of X amount of money? Because if that's the case, I'll pull it out. I'll request to pull it out and I'll make an amendment at that time.
Okay, yeah, we'll pull it out. Councillor Saucier?
Yeah, I'm okay to see what the numbers are this year, but you know, part of me kind of questions why it's our responsibility. Like, I know it's our snowplows and what have you, but I used to live in the country, and you know, I was responsible for my mailbox, so I had to put a barrier there if I didn't want it to get damaged. So I'm just, you know, kind of a little confused by that, like why it's our responsibility to take care of everyone's mailbox.
Monsieur, did I see a hand? Monsieur Leduc?
It's a bit grinchy, I know.
Yeah, members of council, Mr. Bourgon and I had discussed this, and same with the mayor. I seem to be the one being redirected to emails when this happened. When the department takes a position of the current policy, as we're trying to get confirmed by council, I get either an email from a member of council, or I'm redirected in an email from somebody who's not happy about our level of service. And to put an end to this, which puts anxiety on staff who have to respond to those irate emails or phone calls, I want to bring it to the front of council to get the direction regarding the level of service. And if we remain the same, that's perfect. We have an option to provide to somebody that's perfect also. But we want to be sure that we bring this up to your attention, and we put an end to these difficult calls we get. And if we don't provide them anything, we don't. And if we have a pilot project to offer something, they may not want it, but certainly we'll have something to offer if we're in that situation. And if nothing else happens, then we know exactly what to respond to the residents, and we'll be replying. We've brought this in front of council, and that's the direction we've got. So this is why we want to get this, so that we get this emails and Facebook and whatever else can stop, because this was getting very difficult to handle.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. If there's no question, this item is being pulled, and we'll discuss it further. That was item J. Now we're going to item K. Pavage additionnel 2021, rapport ISPW 29-2020. Que le Conseil reçoit le rapport ISPW 29-2020 daté du 21 décembre 2020 et approuve d'inclure l'option A dans le budget de pavage 2021. Questions, membres du Conseil? Questions, members of council? No, that's an easy one. Okay, if there's no questions, we're pretty much following what we've done in previous years, which makes sense. So anything to add, Monsieur Bourgault, on that one? No? Okay, we'll go on to the next item. Item L, which is management review of the DWQMS report ISWAT 02-2020. The council receives report ISWAT 02-2020 dated December 21st, 2020, and acknowledges receipt of the minutes taken at the QMS management review meeting held on December 1st, 2020. Questions, comments, members of council? This is an annual report. Monsieur Bourgault, anything to add to it?
No, not really. It's part of our the routine review that we do, and to show council that we're doing really well with our system, and we're doing always trying to improve the way we're doing our business. So to offer, so that's why you see a few opportunity for improvement during the internal audit, but it's really trying to improve our process and be more efficient.
Yeah. I like the fact that we're taking the time to review ourselves and, you know, make sure we're on top of it. So it's very much well done. Monsieur Conseiller Laurent?
Yeah, it's maybe it's a question at 18 or 19. I'll ask it then. Sorry.
Okay.
It's not to do with the specific report. So.
Okay. Next item, item M, UCPR request to support towards parity in Prescott Russell project report CL07-2020. That council receives report CL07-2020 dated December 21st, 2020. And the council receives the United Counties of Prescott and Russell's email UCPR dated December 1st, 2020 with the report, the summary, and the resolution of the project towards parity in municipal politics in Prescott Russell, presented by Marie-Noëlle Lantier and Roselyne Clément, Leadership Féminin Prescott Russell, to the UCPR at their regular council meeting on November 25th. And that council supports the project towards parity in Prescott Russell and contributes $1,000 towards the project. And that the clerk be directed to, one, to raise public awareness by including a link on the website leading to the pourquoipasmoi.ca campaign, and two, to forward a copy of this resolution to the UCPR. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Associate.
Yeah, I saw somewhere in the report that it was suggesting that council each pay $200 out of their discretionary fund.
Yeah, I believe that's the 5 members of council out of our discretionary fund for this, because it wasn't budgeted in 2021, and I believe everybody has funds left over in 2020. That's the recommendation, Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin? Yes? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Sorry,
go ahead, Conseiller Laurent.
Sorry, the $200 coming out of 2020 or 2021?
I believe it's coming out of 2020. Yes, that's correct. 2020.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to the next item. Item N, nomination d'un commissionnaire à l'intégrité, rapport CL 08-2020. Sorry, before I get any further, I just realized that I didn't say it at the beginning of the reports. The question period is open. Members of the public can write questions so that when we get to the question period, we'll have that available. So si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez les poser tout de suite. Puis quand on va se rendre à la section, la période de questions, on va être capable de les adresser un petit peu plus vite. Ça va juste sauver le temps pour qu'on attende les questions qui rentrent. N, nomination de commissionnaire à l'intégrité, rapport CL 08-2020. Que le Conseil reçoit le rapport CL 08-2020, daté du 21 décembre 2020, et adopte le règlement proposé afin de nommer un commissionnaire à l'intégrité et conclure une entente de service pour les services du commissionnaire à l'intégrité avec M. Jean-Jacques Lacombe. Questions, membres du Conseil? Questions, members of council? Conseiller Laurent.
So just to clarify, the United Counties are paying the commercial general liability for all the municipalities that are hiring this this specific person. Is that my understanding in the last paragraph? Or is
Yeah,
that something we have to reimburse the counties for?
no, I think it falls under the expense of the counties. Madame Camille-Laflamme, Monsieur Leduc, I see Nodd's head shaking. That's correct? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. We received an email from the counties confirming that.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions, members of council? Hearing none. Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter de l'administration? Seeing none, hearing none, we will go on to item O. Pilot project overnight parking, report CAO 09-2020. The council receives report CAO 09-2020 dated December 21st, 2020, and supports the launch of the overnight parking pilot project as proposed in the report from December 22nd, 2020 to April 1st, 2021. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Brisson?
I think it's a real good idea, the way that it was put, and at no cost and no more work for our staff neither. The only thing I wanted to mention is just that if we see that there is too many with the new project that are so tight close, especially whenever COVID will be finished, maybe it's something that should be considered whenever we look at the future development plan, that there's a bigger parking lot, public parking lot, that is constructed by the developer.
Merci, Conseiller Brisson. Yeah, I think that's a good point. This will be a good barometer, if you will, to measure what the usage will be, and it might have an impact on future official plans and how we look at designing our subdivisions. So thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc and the team, for bringing this forward. I know I made you guys, I raised this item at the last meeting and you brought it up in record time, so I appreciate that very much. I know the residents who are looking for this this help will very much appreciate it as well. Monsieur Leduc?
Monsieur le membre du conseil, juste pour vous aviser qu'on ça va être en vigueur à partir de demain. So, les gens, on devrait publier là, des messages sur les médias sociaux demain pour commencer à aviser la communauté sur ce service-là. So we'll be advertising tomorrow on social media regarding this new service.
Okay. Thank you. Conseiller Brisson?
Just to know what will happen if there's a lot too much car that is, because they were saying that the parking can allow about 11 car at both places. It was just what's option B if it come with too many cars.
I think if option B would that the administration would re-look at the pilot project and most likely come back to council with recommendations. Monsieur Leduc?
Well, that's correct. First off, depending on how much more and how much more we need to expand, then I think that's when more costs will get involved, because small area, remote area of the parking lot we can manage. But it is too many, and now there are people there at daytime, nighttime, too many cars to move around. Then the issues about snow removal will be in play. And obviously now with COVID being shut down, shutting us down for the next month, so that will help with this program. But again, I would be coming back to council if we see that this was really a big issue, and it would be a good problem to have, but there might be more cost to it then if that happens, to expand our parking lots.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. D'autres questions, commentaires? Hearing none, we'll go to the next item. Item P, Community Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee, recommendation 2020-001, proposed terms of reference. The council receives a recommendation number 20-001 from the Community Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee dated December 14, 2020, and approves the proposed amendment to the committee bylaw 2019-001 to add Schedule D4, terms of reference of the Community Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee. Questions, members of council? No. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Yep. Go ahead, Councilor.
Sorry, I apologize. I just wanted to reconfirm something, and we talk about age discrimination on there, and I just wanted to double check that that makes sense to include that.
Thank you very much. I believe, Monsieur Leduc, the wording we have, you can fill in members of council for that.
Yeah, as requested by the committee, I had suggested that we have this reviewed by our legal advisor. It was done, and that listing of criterias or items identified there for discrimination or exclusion are based on the human rights of Ontario. So this is the exact listing as per the Act. So all those there are because they are in the Human Rights Code.
Okay, I guess if they're there, then it makes sense. I was just curious as to, if we say no to someone because they're under a certain age, wouldn't that be age discrimination then? Because we say that on a regular basis. We have that in our policies, for ice rental and so on. There's age requirements and.
Yeah, but I think that's standard, right? You can't drive a car before you're 16. It's not age discrimination. It's just a rule that's in place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Monsieur Leduc?
Mr. Tarnowski, that's a good point. And that will be certainly one of the questions that might be raised at the committee level to see which bylaws could have those issues, which might lean more towards the issue that the mayor referred to as a driving number. But there might be others where, why do we have those numbers there? So at least asking ourselves a question, should it be there or not? Certainly that would be part of the work of the committee to review that and recommend the changes if there are changes needed on different bylaws.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that the committee, it was fantastic working with them. They're very professional. We had our first meeting last week with the full team, the 3 members that were added at the previous council meeting. And once these terms of reference are approved, then the next meeting will be in the new year, and it will be in line with all the other committees that we have, that it will be public meetings where members of the public will be able to watch and ask questions and so forth. So thank you very much, everybody. Prochain item 12, rapport d'un investigateur ou l'ombudsman, il n'a pas. Item 13, avis de motion, il n'a pas. Item 14, item 14, sorry. Item 14, question period on meeting of the day. I haven't seen any questions as of yet. I'll give members of the public watching that if they have a question, we'll give you 30 seconds a minute to type something in. At least type in something, I have a question that's coming, so that we are aware. I know as well there's a lag time between what the audience sees and what we're going through in our meeting, but I think that's good. If we have a question, we could always come back to it in the next 30 seconds or a minute. But if not, we will move on to resolutions. Motion that council approves all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees. So we'll put on the table, and then Madame Camille Laflamme will tell us exactly which items that we're pulling out. So I need a mover and seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. And remind me, Madame Camille Laflamme, which items are we removing?
Mr. Mayor, we're removing item 11E, G, I, and J.
I and J. So we're moving 4 items: E, G, I, and J, E, G, E, and G. Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder to amend that, to take those 4 items out. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. So we're voting on everything except those 4 items. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Michael Tarnowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. So everything is approved except item 11E, G, I, and J. So we'll now start with those items. So the first one, item E, which is the Financial Audit Services Report FS 47 2020. That council receives report FS 47 2020, dated December 21st, 2020. Grants and approves the proposed service contract extension for the financial audited services with BDO Canada for fiscal years 2021 and 2022. Need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table, please. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Questions, comments? Conseiller Lorrain.
I'll just make the comment that unfortunately I understand the reasonings, but I can't support the sole sourcing of the contract for another 2 years. That's why I asked. That's why I asked to have it pulled out. And again, I understand all the reasonings, but in this circumstance, I don't think it's appropriate to sole source it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, members of council? So I'll call for the vote.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Cindy
Jamie,
Sosa.
no.
Oh, sorry. Je m'excuse. Cindy Sosa, yes.
And Councillor Lorrain said no. So majority wins, it passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, G, which is the Russell Transpo Report EcoDev 09-2020. I'll reread what the resolution says. That council receives the report EcoDev 09-2020 dated December 7th, 2020, and that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign the proposed bylaw to amend the existing contract with 417 Bus Line in order to provide for 1, a suspension for a period of 1 year starting January 21st, 2021, equivalent to amount of $90,000, and 2, plan a reduced return of service in January 2022, equivalent to an amount of $434,520 until the end of the contract with 417 Bus Line, June 2023. 3, the option of adding a bus depending on the situation. And 4, an amendment to the user fee bylaw to include an increase in the cost of the bus pass from $253 to $265, an increase in the 10-ticket booklet from $102 to $105, an increase in the student pass from $182 to $187, effective in January 2022. I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table, please. Moved by Councillor Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. The item is on the table. Do we have questions, comments, amendments? Conseiller Lorrain.
I have a question for Monsieur Leduc, just based on item number 2. So that says a reduced service in January 2022, equivalent to an amount of $434 until the end of the contract with 417 June of 2023. This reads to me that we're committing right to the end of June of 2023, and that I want to make sure that are we eliminating our 6-month window to cancel the contract at any point in time as is currently stated in the contract? This seems to tell me we are eliminating it.
Okay, thank you very much, Conseiller Lorrain. I think it's a decision of council. If council wish to change its mind in the future and give 6 months notice, there's nothing tying us to this. Is that correct, Mr. Leduc?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, c'est sommet à l'interne. So it's an internal decision, so council can do that, the decision whenever they judge it's necessary to do. So unless Mrs. Tremblay says the opposite, from working more with the 417 Bus Line, but I think anytime that whenever we feel like it's time to review the decision, we can do it.
Okay, thank you very much. My only concern with that part is that when members of the public look at this, it gives the impression that council is committing till the very end of the contract, which from a perception point of view, they might not understand the different nuances between what's council's ability to cancel later on. Okay. Other questions, members of council? No. So we have this is what's in front of us right now. So if there's no amendments to this, we can vote on this, see how it turns out. And if it doesn't have Madame Camille-Laflamme, I think I'm going to need your assistance on this one. If this is voted down, is there the ability to make an amendment afterwards possible, or we should be doing an amendment if need be beforehand?
It would be preferred for sure to make the amendment before. I have not checked exactly in the procedure, but
it's just because once this is voted down, the entire motion, in my opinion, is voted down. So if we want to make a change, it would just die then and there, and then we'd have to give direction to the administration on how to proceed, and they'd have to come back. I'll put it out there. You know, I've discussed this numerous times over the years. I've always had issues with this. I'm recommending that we go with option 4. If in the future council decides that we want to reinvestigate, you know, go to tender for the service. But I think option 4 sends a clear message, and it also sends a clear message to the private sector that if they're interested in moving forward with a bus service, they can on their own, and they can go like they've done in other municipalities. So, Councillor Tarnowski.
So, given the uncertainty of the near future, certainly, I think that that I'd like to support that.
Okay, so would you like to move it, Councillor Tarnowski, to go with option 4?
Yep.
Okay, so Councillor Tarnowski is moving that we go with option 4. Do we have a seconder? If
are you? I thought you were moving it and he was seconding it. He brought it to the table.
As chair, I can make the suggestion, but I don't believe as chair I can actually move it. So Councillor Tarnowski is moving it. If there's a seconder, so move seconded by Councillor Lorraine. So we have a motion on the table to change from option 1 to option 4. So we can have a conversation about that. Conseiller Brisson.
Je fais juste remarquer quand même que le coût au conseil va être même plus haut si on va avec l'option 4 qu'avec l'option 1, au bout de 3 ans, que dans les pronostics dessus. Je fais remarquer, ça fait que moi, j'étais correct pour avec l'autre, mais pas de conseiller au complet, là, mais ça fait que juste faire sûr que les membres voient la fin de la ligne aussi, qu'on a des coûts associés avec la cancellation au complet, au lieu d'attendre de voir qu'est-ce qui va se passer en 2022.
Oui, je comprends, conseiller Brisson. Si tu regardes les coûts totaux, option 1, c'est un petit peu moins cher. And that is assuming that we have over $270,000, $267,000 of revenue from users. There's no guarantee there. So yes, the way it's presented, potentially, but there is no guarantee that those revenues would actually be there. Councillor Tarnowski?
J'aimerais ça faire l'emphase justement sur ce point-là, conseiller Brisson. Moi aussi, j'étais du même avis en regardant les chiffres au début. Mais c'est ça qui arrive, c'est qu'il y a beaucoup de spéculation sur ces chiffres-là. Puis moi, d'après ce que je lis, d'après ce que je vois, il y a beaucoup d'incertitudes sur le retour au travail pour beaucoup d'employés du gouvernement fédéral dans les courts délais, puis même dans les plus longs délais. Je pense que la COVID va faire un gros changement à ce niveau-là. C'est sûr qu'il va y avoir une demande, mais je ne pense pas qu'elle va être aussi importante. Fait que le fait que ça va revenir à un coût à tous nos citoyens, j'ai un petit peu de misère à l'accepter. J'adore le système de transport. Je trouve que c'est important de l'avoir, mais j'ai aussi beaucoup de confiance que le privé va ramasser le slack qui va se produire ici. Ça a été démontré à Limoges, à Castleman. Alors, je suis confiant que ça va être possible. Et puis sinon, on se donne toujours la permission de revisiter puis de voir s'il y a de l'allure à l'avoir. Merci.
Merci. Conseiller Lorrain?
I'm just the only comment I'm gonna make on this is that this was never supposed to be a long-term solution to begin with. It turned out to be. The costs were not supposed to be what they were. And in this time with us not knowing what's going to happen with the people, the employees and whatnot, I think this gives the private sector all the time in the world to revisit the program, and they can then decide if they want to actually service the region with a bus service to Ottawa on their terms. So I think it gives them a little bit more flexibility than waiting the full year and then potentially coming back, or not even, you know what I mean? Like with the uncertainty of the contract being suspended and then potentially being brought back with 2 buses, 4 buses. I think this gives them more certainty on their side to now move forward with a plan of action for the municipality if they so choose to do so on their own. So to me, that's what makes sense in this circumstance. And, you know, we have no idea what's going to happen going forward. And, you know, for the amount of people that are using it right now and going into the 2022, you know, I'm gonna support this this amendment at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Madame Tremblay.
I just want to clarify that the revenues that were shown as a user fee in the table are really conservative, and I just want to mention, members of council, that's for 1.5 years of revenue. So I know that there's uncertainty, but at the same time, we were pretty conservative in the revenue that were shown in the table. So I just want to mention that as well. So it's important to consider that we've kept the number minimal so that it's not a factor that could be, so it's 2022 and half of 2023 as well.
Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. Again, there's nothing.
Can I just mention as well, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, like I feel that it's that we're taking advantage of COVID to make a decision that should have been done maybe 3 years ago. And I feel that it's not the appropriate time to kind of use the COVID situation to make the end of a service that could have been profitable at the end of the year of 2021 without the COVID.
Okay, well, I understand COVID hit everybody. Everybody's adjusting throughout the world. You know, it's not a matter of taking advantage, is that we have a report in front of us that presents all the facts. Again, if there's facts that aren't in the report, I invite them to be presented. But as far as I know, all the facts have been presented. And now it's up to council to decide which direction they would like to go in.
And just for the private sector, as I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but the comment that was made for the private sector, this will not be an option. This is not something that the provider, the current provider, will offer to the Township of Russell resident if we cancel the service. Just want to, because that's a discussion that we did have based on our negotiation.
Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. And that's the same comment that I heard that was told to the other mayors in the other municipality. It was a bargaining tactic, and that same comment was used with the other municipalities to try and keep the municipality on board. Obviously, the municipality is funneling over $200,000 a year in funding to this company. So of course, it's going to use every tactic possible to try and keep that $200,000 of public funds coming into its coffers. Madame Saucier.
Okay, well, I just want to go on record as saying that I support the recommended scenario 1, and I'd like to take a recorded vote.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
That's what I was going to ask too for the recorded vote.
Great. So we have an amendment on the table. If there's no further discussion, members of council, we'll call for the vote. Recorded vote, please.
Yeah, and right now, just to make clear, it's for the cancellation of the program, of the service.
Right now, it's to change from option, what the recommendation is, to option 4, which is the, let me just read option 4, scenario 4, I should say. On a-tu une recommandation comme telle? Monsieur Leduc? Non, hein?
No.
Je pense c'est juste, I'll look at the financial. I think that's probably the best way to, how they how they work it.
Page 8 of 10 is scenario 4.
Yeah, is to go with option 4, which is the cancellation of the contract. Notice given on December 22nd, plus the cancellation of Route 4 within with 30 days notice. So
Just
it's
a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Conseiller Brisson.
And what's the difference between the number 3 and 4? I don't understand because it seemed quite the same, but a bit more costly.
Oui. Numéro 3, c'est juste que route 4, on a l'option de donner 30 jours de notice. Numéro 3, c'est que on ne donne pas le 30 jours de notice. C'est pas mal ça, Madame Tremblay?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, la seule différence du scénario 4, c'est qu'on devra donner notre 30 jours pour l'autobus 4 avant de commencer le 6 mois. Donc, le 6 mois de pénalité va probablement être plus élevé qu'anticipé dans le rapport. Je voulais juste mentionner, je ne sais pas exactement ça va être quoi la différence, mais le 30 jours pour la cancellation d'autobus 4 va être donné probablement cette semaine. Puis on devra attendre après ce 30 jours-là pour donner le 6 mois. Donc, le 6 mois ne commencera pas le 22 décembre.
OK, so tu me dis-tu que le rapport is wrong?
No, I'm not saying that the report is wrong. I'm just saying the fourth bus will have to be canceled prior for us to cancel the entire service. You can't mix and match both options.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the financial table for option 4. That's what I'm basing all the
I'm
information.
just saying that it could be a bit different than the 274, not that much. But
No,
the
I think that's accounted for in the financial table because January is a little bit higher and then February is a little bit less. So ça doit comme le 21 janvier, c'est 54 000, puis après ça, ça tombe 41, 41, 41, 41. Ça retombe à 55. So, je pense peut-être, M. Godin peut confirmer avec moi ou non, mais ça semble être la façon qui est présentée. Je pense que c'est comme ça qu'il est dans le rapport, Mme Tremblay. Okay, so we have an amendment on the table. We have a mover and a seconder and the request for the recorded vote. So I'll call for the vote.
Michael Ternosky, yes.
André, no.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sose, no.
And myself, yes. So it is carried. So now option 4, it is amended to option 4 for the cancellation of the service. I'll call for the vote on option 4 unless there's other questions or changes or amendments to be brought forward.
Recorded vote, please.
Yes. Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Mike Ternosky, oui.
André, no.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sose, no.
Myself, yes. It is carried. So we'll move on to the next item. Item I, this was the one that Councillor Brisson had to declare conflict of interest on, is the Dedicated Public Highway Report ISPW 27-2020. So I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Ternosky. Questions on this item? If not, I'll call for the vote.
Mike Ternosky, yes.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sose, yes.
Perfect. It is carried.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I missed the mover seconder for that one.
It was moved by Conseiller Lorrain and seconded by Councillor Ternosky.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Next item is item J. Item J, c'était les opérations hivernales et boîtes aux lettres. This was the mailbox report. I need a mover and seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Ternosky, seconded by Councillor Saucier. Questions, comments, amendments? Councillor Lorrain.
I'll make an amendment that that we allocate $1,500 to an operational budget for a pilot project, so that staff, like Monsieur Leduc said, staff have the ability to assist people who have concerns over the broken mailboxes and provide them again on a pilot basis this year. We'll see how it goes. You know, the ability to have a, what's it called, a barrier put up for them, or provide them with the barrier for them to put up. So let's start the project, see how it goes. And, you know, we don't know, you know, it could take off. It could be, you know, nobody ends up using it at the end of the day, but at least Monsieur Leduc has an option for them, or his staff, for people that are complaining that their mailboxes were destroyed and that we're not going to replace the mailbox. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Conseiller Lorrain. So we have that move by Conseiller Lorrain. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Questions on that amendment? No questions, so I'll call on the vote.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. So we're putting a pilot project. We're keeping the current policy, and we're putting a pilot project in place. Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Leduc, I'll let you figure out if the 1,500 comes from whatever funds you decide are appropriate. Okay, so that's it for resolutions.
I think we have to actually vote on the resolution, don't we? As amended.
Oh, my apologies. You're correct.
No, you voted on the amendment.
Amendment, yeah. So I'll call for the vote.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. It is officially approved now. So now we'll move on to the next item. Item 16, which is the bylaws. Bylaws and attachment. Motion that council approve bylaw 2020-157 and bylaws 2020-160 to 2020-166 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. Need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. I see hands going up. Was there something, Councillor Saucier?
Yes, the bus one is included in there, or we've already taken care of that? I just want to make sure I'm not voting in favor.
Well, there's Monsieur. Let's double check.
It's at the beginning, bylaw with the 417 bus line is.
Yeah, so we'll remove item 2020-157. Was there another one for Monsieur, for St. Pierre Road, 2020-164 has to be taken out for Conseiller Brisson as well? So I need a mover and a seconder to take those two items out, please. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Saucier. So let's vote on everything except for 2020-157 and 2020-164.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Mr. Mayor, don't we have to vote on the amendment to remove them first, and then we vote on that?
Yeah. Okay, let's do it that way. Vote to remove these two items.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. The two items are removed. Let's vote on everything else except those two items.
Mike Tarnowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. So those are all carried. We'll move back to 2020-157. Right now, it reads, being a bylaw to amend the agreement with 417 Bus Line Limited, report EcoDev 09-2020. Based on the resolution, Madame Camille Laflamme, should we just say that being a bylaw to cancel the agreement with 417 Bus Line Limited? Or how do we want to word this?
Do we need the bylaw to sign a contract for 417 to cancel?
No, Monsieur Leduc, we don't need this bylaw at all. So in this case, the bylaw is just removed completely based on the recommendation from council. Okay, so we're removing 2020-157. So now we'll just do 2020-164, which was for the public highway being St. Pierre Road and Route 300, ISPW 27-2020. So put that on the table, need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseillère Saucier. Questions on this one? No? Call for the vote.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
And it is carried. So Conseiller Brisson is now moving his chair forward again.
Yep.
So 17 new business reports, we have none. Councillor Lorrain had mentioned something that you wanted to ask a question. We'll just add it in at this point.
If that's okay. Something that the water report triggered it for me was, I thought we were getting an update on this at this meeting regarding the boil water advisory and the costs and whatnot.
Okay.
I don't see it.
Yeah, we got a verbal report at the last meeting, but I think the actual report to come will most likely only come at a later date because we still have to gather information from the ministry and the health unit. Is that correct, Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Leduc?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So yes, I still have a few details to validate before bringing back that information to council.
Do we have an estimated time frame that we're thinking of bringing something back?
I'm hoping that it could be the meeting in January, if I do get all the information in hand.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. We're dealing with a provincial ministry over the holidays, so it might not be that quick, but hopefully Mr. Bourgon gets all that information sooner rather than later. Okay. 18 other business by council members, there's nothing. 19 public consultation, nothing. Item 20, closed session. Motion to move into closed session at the hour of 8:08 p.m. to address matters pertaining to Section 239 in the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, to consider matters relating to 1. Sale of land in the industrial park, verbal report. Section 2C, a proposer pending acquisition or disposition land by the municipality or local board. 2. Sale of land in the industrial park, verbal report. Under Section 2C, a proposer pending acquisition or disposition land by the municipality or local board. Item 3, update on lease renewal in Embrun, report CS08D 2020. Under Section 2C, a proposer pending acquisition or disposition land by the municipality or local board. Item 4, it's not necessary, so we won't be discussing it. Item 5, closed session minutes of the regular council meeting dated December 7th, 2020.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Just to say that number 3 is a verbal report now.
Okay, item 3 is a verbal report. I knew there was a verbal extra in there. Parfait, merci. That was adopted at the beginning of the meeting, so I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Was there questions on this, Councillor Saucier?
I just wanted to make sure that no questions came in from the public, like because you said it was delayed. Nothing came in, eh?
Nope, nothing came in whatsoever. It's been the question period's been open the whole time and nothing ever came in. So.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So all those in favor to go to closed session?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie?
Jamie's gone.
Sorry, I didn't realize that we had to vote on going back in closed session again. So yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. We're now in closed session. We'll go to our closed session meeting, then we'll come back out of closed session to report at whatever time we are done. So see you guys in closed session. Thanks.